Father Luke Prihoda, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me back. It's a joy to be here after 2 years and kind of see, as I got to pray through the past 2 years, preparing kind of where the Lord's led me. It's been a great gift, and kind of see for those listeners to be able to hear where I've been and how the Lord's working. So
speaking of where you've been, like where we are right now, this is beautiful. This is the Diocese of Victoria. What parish are we in right now?
So at this moment, we're in the parish boundaries of the Nativity of the Blessed Virgin Mary here in St. Mary's High Hill. It's a mission of my parish that I'm at there at St. Rose of Lima in Schulenburg, Texas. We also have St. John the Baptist and St. Wenceslaus in Ammonsville and Holman, but this is one that's in this area. This is actually a kind of a retreat house, a farmhouse that's been converted.
It's beautiful.
Here with God's Embrace Ministries, and so they allow me to utilize their chapel and offer masses for them as well as their retreats, but also for my days of recollection, my days of privacy, and coming out and on a day off to pray, spend time reading. And so I thought, what better place to have this interview than here instead of driving into the concrete jungle.
I mean, I can just imagine coming into this house. I mean, this is very, very Bridges of Madison County feel. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but it kind of feels like that. And you said you have retreats here as well right? They have
they typically have small retreats, about 4 or 5 people, and it's kind of a guided retreat. Ignatian, you got 4 hours of prayer. They have a spiritual director that meets with them kind of once at a time. It's also a place where they'll have either men or women come and have like a prayer team while the Acts retreats are going on at a different location to be able to pray for them, kind of anywhere from 6 to 12 people here, being able to pray into and allow those graces to flow upon the retreatants that are at the retreat house there at Cathedral Oaks. So
your parish now, are you parochial vicar or pastor?
Still a parochial vicar.
Okay.
Thanks be to God. So I just finished up year 2, and luckily the bishop is not moving me, so I should be here for year 3. And it's been a great parish to be able to come to know the people. Again, I grew up 8 miles away, and so I always tell people that it's God's humor. The people I hated most when I was playing baseball against them, they were our rivals. They're 8 miles away. He gives me care of souls now, and so it's been a great joy to kind of be here, interacting with the youth through the confirmation classes, interacting through adult education or the OCIA classes, and getting to know the community in a teaching aspect. And again, it's a joy to be able to serve these people, because while there's an animosity in competition, just to have an edge, we actually, it's very similar, the same value systems, the same understanding of they want to be close and community oriented. They want to be part of the church. And again, the Shorthorns are actually going to the state semifinals this year in baseball, so that's been good to follow them from afar. I've always had a marriage prep or something going on, or a marriage rehearsal when they're playing, but it has been a joy to kind of keep in touch with them and see the excitement of the city.
Do they expect you to cheer for the team and go to the games as well? And
I always stand on their sideline, or on their side of the court, or their side of the baseball diamond. So even when they play Weimar, and I think that may rub some people the wrong way with Weimar, but again, these are the people that the Lord has entrusted to me, and I want them to know that they have my support as that spiritual father, and as a witness. I don't really engage too much in outside of that, but I have been invited to be able to pray with the teams and walk with the youth, especially our Catholic youth, and so it's been a joy.
So the last time we had you on the show was about a little more than 2 years ago, right? Right before your ordination, I believe.
Yeah, so it was probably March or April before my ordination on May 13th of 2023. So just finished my second year anniversary, and so that's been reflecting on that over the last couple of weeks has been a great gift as well, seeing how the Lord blessed me on that day, and then has continually blessed me in both the joys and the struggles that come with priesthood and kind of walking with people.
let's talk about your ordination. So does it work the same way where you find out the night before where you're going to be assigned?
No, it actually, our diocese, it actually started with our class, myself and Father Ryan Kapovic. We found out at the Chrism Mass. So it was almost probably a month and a half to 2 months that we knew where we were going. So it was helpful because I got to talk to the pastor. I got to kind of settle up anything. So it's not like you get ordained and you find out where you're going and then you've got a month to figure it out. We found out probably that Lent or that Holy Week. And so that was probably a month and two before. And so I was able to reach out to Father Jasper, which I had a good relationship with Father Jasper because he was my pastor when I was on pastoral year in Cuero. And then he spent a year at the seminary as a spiritual director. He wasn't mine, but he was there. And so being able to walk with him and then coming and joining him and being able to see his continued guidance as a mentor, as a father to me in my ministry. And he's given me a lot of that comfort level, has given an opportunity for me to take roles that maybe not have been there had I not known him before. And so teaching aspects or engaging, or I come up with an idea for candlelight adoration or something that we would have done at the seminary. And if it's something that I will take on and wish to walk with, he gives me that opportunity. So I'm grateful for it.
Speaking of the seminary, so a lot of your classmates in the seminary are in Galveston, Houston, and they do it differently, right? They find out the night before. Which one would you have preferred? Do you think it works better this way, knowing a month and a half ahead of time, more or less?
I liked it. Again, it gave me an opportunity to kind of know where I'm going. And it also gave the opportunity for some of those parishioners that I was going to go and minister to be able to come to my ordination without even knowing me. And so we'll have an ordination this upcoming Saturday. And so I always tell them, if you haven't been to an ordination and you're getting a new priest, go there, pray for them, but be able to encounter the beauty of the ordination, because, I mean, it's an unbelievable experience having so many people praying for those who are journeying towards this culmination of all of their formation. And there's so many people praying. We have one of the best, probably the best MC in my opinion, Father Tommy Chin, running it. We have a brass band and orchestra and the big organ there at our cathedral, and so the music is beautiful. The incense allows us to enter into the mystery, and then just to see these will be three men laying down and sacrificing their lives. And that was something that I look forward to do this Saturday, but it's also something I recall very vividly on my own account.
Yeah, because we just recently interviewed Father Clint Ressler, and he said that at his ordination, he found out the night before, he didn't realize that where he got assigned, that some of the youth were actually serving at his ordination. So it would be cool to know ahead of time if they knew, So that does make sense.
Yeah, I know that it can put an onus on the bishop or the cardinal if there's some kind of thing that comes up and they have to make a maneuver, and it can't be like you were planning on going to one place, but then someone gets sick and they have to fill in another role, and then all of a sudden you transition or pivot. When they tell you the day before, again, it's going to happen. Yeah. So I can see both sides.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But I do. I'm grateful for that, and we get to kind of see where everyone else is moving at that point too, so that it gives them probably a 2-month transition time to be able to pass over anything for the pastors that are moving at that time, not only for those that are entering in for their first assignment.
Do you still get that month off like the other guys did?
So typically, Galveston, Houston is the first Saturday in June. Ours can fluctuate. It's usually in May, and so this one will be May 31st. Ours was May 13th, and I was thinking, well, maybe I'll have all the way till July 1st, because most people start July 1. We started June 1st.
Oh,
so
really we got just a couple weeks, huh?
We had a 3 weeks kind of lead time, so I was able to to celebrate Mass at my home parish the day of, and that was on Mother's Day after the ordination. I was able to go to Cuero for the following weekend in which they had their church picnic, and then I was able to be in East Bernard where we did our first interview the following weekend. And so those 3 kind of weekends led me right into starting here on June 1, and then having my first homilies here, and then ended up the following weekend, or my second weekend there, we had a church picnic, our church picnic here. It's always the second week in June here at St. Rose.
That's a great time for people to get to know you.
Yes. So there were a lot of people that were able to come up and introduce themselves. I didn't remember their names then. Hopefully I've done a better job over the 2 years to come to know the flock that's entrusted to me. But yeah, it was good to see so many people and support our church through a good event.
So the ordination itself, what do you remember the most about it?
It rained a lot.
Oh, really?
It was a beautiful day. We did our rehearsal the night before, and then I went and stayed in Cuero, where Father Jacob Mendoza was. And so I had 4 priests come in from different dioceses, Austin and Houston, Amarillo and Brownsville. And so we all had dinner that night, and it had rained pretty much the most of the week. And we went to bed. I was staying there. 2 of them went to Myersville, stayed at the rectory there, and 2 of them went to Goliad and stayed in a rectory there, or at a house there. And so that night it rained and rained and rained, and I woke up and I knew I wasn't going to get my holy hour in at the cathedral because they practiced the music. And so I went and sat in Our Lady of Guadalupe church and just prayed and heard it raining on the top of the roof. And I'm thinking, well, I'm supposed to be there. So I got out of there and I started driving, and there was water flowing on both sides of the roads, and there were many people that couldn't get out of their driveways because it had rained that much. It was like 5 or 6 inches over the night, and it was already saturated. And so there were many people that turned around. That didn't stop the cathedral from being full. It was I think it was God's limiting the capacity of people that were coming there. And when I got to the cathedral, I remember seeing a couple of my friends that were from Houston. They live in Chicago area or Illinois, and they came and they go, "You sure call in some really good weather." And I said, "Well, this is a tangible evidence or witness of what's the grace that's pouring down in this ordination." And so it was for me a visible witness to how God was going to pour out his graces upon myself and Father Ryan. And after I visited with them, I went into the kind of vesting area. I'd reached out to Father David Hust and wanted to go to confession. I was making sure I was going to go to confession. When I hit the marble to lay down prostrate and have everyone praying for me, I wanted to be open to every grace that I could be at that point. And Father Luke Millette had actually told us in our canon law class kind of advice. He says, when you lay down, you'll never have more people praying for you at that point than your ordination. So ask for specific graces in that time. And so what I asked for was the ability to minister to the Hispanic communities that I'd be entrusted with, because I'm not a native Spanish speaker. I still am not fluent, but I'm conversational. I'm able to walk with the community, but it's gotten much better. And then to be able to remember names, because Christ always called people by name. And so to be able to see people, be it the students at school, be it the parishioners, to be able to call them, and I do get their names wrong at times, but still trying, instead of just, "Hey buddy," or "How's it going?" To intentionally let them hear that their Father is trying to know their names and wants to call them by name and wants to walk with them. And so those were the 2 things I prayed for while I was prostrate, and they were praying the litany of the saints and all of the chant that goes with it. And so those are some of the main kind of things that I remember from that day. And then the kind of laying on of hands. A lot of priests will come through, and a lot of them will just kneel and allow people to lay hands on them. And it's right after the bishop lays hands on you. And so it's a beautiful witness to the presbyterate coming together.
Yes.
And that's exactly what we did. And for me, I looked at every person that was about to lay hands on me, and then I bowed my head and they laid hands on me. So I got to see every person that was coming through. I wasn't just looking at their shoes. I do remember that. And so I do advise anybody who's going to get ordained, it's a beautiful thing to kind of recognize the brother priest who are coming through, and then the embrace, kind of the sign of peace, but the embrace with all your brother priests who are welcoming you into the fraternity of the priesthood of Jesus Christ. Those are some of the most joyful pictures that have turned out, and so that was beautiful. And then after the ordination, it was just lines of being first priestly blessings.
Of course.
And those are great.
Oh yeah. So when you're on the, when you hit the marbles, as you said, and the litany of saints, did you get to choose the saints, some of the saints?
So we did get to add in.
Okay.
And they didn't just limit us to like 2. And so we took advantage of it. We were going to have as many saints calling down upon us.
So who was on your list? These names have to be there.
So one, St. Luke, because he's not in the normal. I mean, he's not one of the apostle parts.
Okay.
I know that St. Philip Neri would have been there. St. Maria Goretti would have got added in for us. But I bet we added probably 25 or 30 saints in there.
But for you personally,
yeah.
Which ones?
And then I'm pretty sure St. Joan of Arc for my mom, we added her in. And so but Maria Goretti, I got to pray at her tomb during one of my times, during my Rome experience in seminary formation. And so getting to know her, and then actually one of the guys who will be ordained on Saturday, Deacon Caleb Krischke, soon to be Father Caleb Krischke, when he went to Rome on the Rome experience the following, shortly after our ordination, I asked him to ask the Passionists there, would go to the Passionist community and see if they would have a relic of St. Maria Goretti that they'd be willing to give to a newly ordained priest who wants to keep her relic in the confessional, again, praying against the sins of unforgiveness and praying against the sins of purity. And he was able to bring her relic back in July after I'd been ordained. And so she has a very prominent place in my confessional as I ask her intercession as I'm absolving sins and journeying with that. And so Maria Goretti was very close. St. Luke, again, the patron saint, my patron saint. And then I guess St. Philip Neri, we just had his feast day yesterday, and being able to recall his impact on my journey has been a great gift as well. As I gave my homily yesterday, it was much longer than normal because I had written a paper on him, so I was looking through it, and I was going through all of my highlighted points of exactly how he transformed Rome in a very difficult time, the Counter-Reformation. And so seeing that, kind of encountering them as I traveled, and then being able to have them praying for me as I'm on the marble, those were the ones that I can remember right offhand.
When you're laying prostrate, some of the priests said that they, their whole journey flashes kind of before their eyes. Is that what happened to you? Did you see your whole journey?
I wouldn't say that I saw it. It's not something that I recall. I'm sure there were moments that came forward. There was a lot of emotion. There was a lot of joy, just sheer joy, smiling, at times a tear coming out, but most of the time just the gratefulness and the gratitude to God for calling me to this role. And that has been something that I would say is most prevalent over the first 2 years, is just the gratitude for the gift. I mean, it is a gift of the priesthood. It is at times very exhausting, at times very very difficult. There's just difficult situations or moments that you're challenged with, and then you get through them and you're like, he does work. So I'm getting out of his way and being able to overcome some of those kind of parts where you just want to distance yourself, but being able to enter into it with him and hope that what you're able to offer is his presence and is his wisdom. And so, that's kind of where that comes from.
You said earlier, some of the newly ordained priests, they just look down. Do you think maybe it's because of the emotion? Maybe they're just all lots of tears.
I think some of it is emotion. I think some of it is just that's the normal postures, like you're kneeling, you're praying, and they're going to be putting their hands on your head. So instead of them putting it on your face, you're putting it on top of your head. And so I think that's most of it. But there is some emotion. I think most of the emotion is either prior or shortly thereafter, especially when you. It's a joyful emotion when you're able to embrace your brothers as they come through.
Now that you started, after your whole tour, you said you had like a 3-week thing, right? Boom, 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 all these different events happening. So you hit the ground running at your parish.
Yeah.
How was the adjustment?
Well, even before that, so on those weekends, I was able to go and have masses at the 3 places that were very integral, my parish assignments.
Okay.
But I also, during the week, I was able to go and say mass for the sisters, the Dominican sisters there at Walsingham, because Sister Albert Marie had taught me 3 classes, and so I asked if I could say a mass of Thanksgiving for them.
Nice.
I was able to say a mass for our Incarnate Word and Blessed Sacrament sisters there in Victoria, which my great aunt was a member of their congregation or community, and then I went to the Houston Dominicans and was able to say mass with the religious sisters, the Asian, the Rally Nuns.
The Rally Nuns, yes.
And so got to say mass in their beautiful chapel. And so what I was trying to do as I entered into the priesthood is I wanted as many religious communities praying for me. And it was a great joy to celebrate mass in all of their convents. And then since then, I've been to a couple more. One in the Apostles of the Interior Life, their campus or their convent in College Station. And then...
Wow, you've been everywhere.
Yeah. Well, that was in the first year. This past August, I was able to go down and celebrate Mass with the Sisters of Mary down in Chalco, Mexico. And that one has been truly transformational. And we'll probably talk about that one later.
Now, you said that you went to Walsingham, and that is, that's a former Episcopalian parish that, converted to Catholicism. So when you go there, do you say a different type of mass for them, or how does that work?
For the religious sisters, they have their own chapel inside their own house. And so it was 4 sisters, and then at the time it was Deacon Zachary Muldrow was my deacon, and so we were able to celebrate Mass. And one thing that I remember specifically about that Mass is Walsingham doesn't have a freestanding altar, so it's pushed up against the wall, so you have to celebrate ad orientem. With your back facing the congregation. And it's so beautiful. As I raised up the chalice to see 4 religious sisters kneeling and my brother, soon-to-be brother priest, kneeling at my side in the reflection of the chalice. And it's and I'm looking directly at the crucifix. And so the image that comes over me is like they had it right in so many ways of the old Mass is to lead and looking, and everyone's focusing at the cross and everyone's focusing on Christ and the chalice being elevated, the blood, the precious blood that's now present. And to be able to see I'm leading these holy women, especially one of them who taught me 3 different classes on spirituality and then social justice in the church. And so to walk in that, or to walk away from that moment is something that, again, that was probably within the first 2 weeks of me being a priest, that I was able to just truly embrace. And again, having to send a letter of suitability to the ordinariate parish, the cathedral there, and be able to celebrate for them, for Cardinal Donardo to be able to celebrate with the Houston Dominicans, as well as when I concelebrated the ordination Mass of my classmates. And so, it's pretty special.
That's pretty cool. I can imagine, like, it's very, even a cinematic look of just seeing their reflection kneeling down in the chalice. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. you can't get a picture of that one, but it's just burned into your brain.
No, I've got it, and I've been able to celebrate that Mass at different places. A couple weeks ago, we did a Painted Churches tour with with a benefactor of mine who supported me throughout seminary. He's from St. Rose of Lima in Houston, and he came down with a group of about 15 of his parishioners or friends. And at St. John the Baptist in Ammonsville, I celebrated at the high altar. I told them, there's an altar stone here. I've never celebrated on this high altar. And again, this church was built in 1909 and 19 teens. I'm going to celebrate this way as Ad Orientem. Again, the same thing, lifting up the chalice 2 weeks ago and seeing the 15 or 20 pilgrims on that journey, all focusing towards this beautiful high altar and this beautiful celebration of the Eucharist.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. So wow, you've been everywhere. You would think that, he's in like a rural, diocese, he's just kind of tucked away, but no, you've been all over the place.
I do typically try and fill up my time of vacation with places to go and celebrate Mass or to go and encounter, be it on pilgrimage. I was able to go to World Youth Day 3 months after my ordination there in Portugal. And so that was, and so that's kind of where I find it's life-giving. It's also exhausting, but it's also life-giving to be able to have these encounters and be able to have the realization that the spiritual life is real. And so to have as many people that have impacted my journey to be able to continue to pray for me. And that's why I think the religious sisters and saying Masses at their convents has been such a blessing for me, because now I have just continual prayers coming from them, because they are grateful to have a priest come and be able to offer those sacraments. And I'm grateful to be able to celebrate with some of the holiest, most prayerful women in our world, seeking to lay down their lives as well. Their day of consecration, they laid down their lives as well, and to be able to serve the Lord in their different capacities and their different charisms is great to see.
You said earlier that some people came from Houston for your ordination weekend. Were there any of your classmates or?
Actually, all of my classmates were unable to come because we got ordained on the same day as the transitional deacons. When now Father Viet Nguyen was getting ordained a deacon, all of them were serving that diaconate Mass. But Monsignor Borski did come, Father TJ did come, Father Joseph White, Father Christopher Meyer. So those priests were able to come. But none of my classmates came to that. They did come to my first Mass on Sunday there in Weimar. And so it was good to have Deacon Zachary as my deacon, one of my deacons, and then Deacon Joseph Blackburn, who got ordained the next year. He had gotten ordained shortly before us, to be able to carry those roles. And then my other deacons, all of the other deacons were able to be there and come through and be there for my first Mass celebration.
So at your current parish, when you first started, was it what you imagined it would be like? Starting at the parish? It
was slow. I mean, it's summertime, so all the schools were out. I mean, it's June 1st, and so, I mean, there was not a whole lot going on in the parish. One, it was probably good for me to try and transition during that period of not having everything kind of swirling in my head. But it has been great. I've come, St. Rose of Lima has a different, distinct feel compared to St. Michael's in Weimar, where I grew up. Again, it was a very high vaulted ceiling, beautiful stained glass, a lot of wood stain, a lot of wood, old kind of high altars, where St. Rose of Lima actually is a lot of marble, beautiful marble statues, beautiful stained glass windows as well. But it's got a lower ceiling, and it just was a different feel. And going to Mass there, leading into it, I didn't really know what to expect. But over the past 2 years, being able to say Mass there, it's been a great gift and a blessing. Well, we have, again, an electric organ that we have organists to play. So we have two women. One plays 5 p.m. and 7 or 10 a.m. and the other plays at 7:30. So we have good music, and so it was distinct. I didn't really know what to expect, but it was much slower than I expected at the beginning. And then when summer ended, it became kind of just a revolving door of so many things that are going on in our parish. And then again, we travel to our mission parishes. And so one weekend you may be at St. Rose, and one weekend you may be at the other three missions to be able to say Mass. And saying Mass here in High Hill was one of the most beautiful things. Again, my aunt lives just down the road, and so this is her home parish. To be able to come here for their weddings of their children, but to be able to celebrate Mass in that beautiful church has been unbelievable. And so that was a distinct advantage, I think, for me, where others that maybe at one parish, they get the same look over and over again. Unfortunately, at times you don't see the same parishioners because you're at a different place. And so you're like, do you even go to Mass? You're like, you see them every 3 weeks because we have 2 parochial vicars and a pastor. And so at times you don't get back to the 7:30 Mass for 3 weeks or a month. And all of a sudden you're like, I haven't seen this person at all. Well, they're always going to that same Mass.
Yeah.
And so it's that recollection of, okay, how do I continue, and what homilies did I emphasize here that if I want to make an emphasis and I want other people to hear it, did I already say this to the parish at St. Rose, or is this something that I said at the missions, and how can I emphasize specific points or draw from those same examples, but give it to both sides of our flock that's entrusted to us?
Must be a little harder to memorize names too if you only see them once every 3 weeks.
Yeah, so that gets difficult for the school kids. One way I'm able to do that is I typically get the roster at the beginning of the year, and then I'll go greet kids as they come in at a car drop off, and so being able to call their names at that point, that's where I learned their names for the most part. For the adults, it's a lot of those that are active, that are our daily masters, those that you see on a regular basis at different events.
Different ministries and
different
stuff.
ministries. But I've done pretty good even outside of that for those parishioners that I don't see very often, or you wouldn't think you see them every 2-3 weeks, but it is a country feel. And again, you'll see them around town. You'll see them when I'm going for a walk. I'll see them when at the gym or something of that nature, and so go from there.
During your first interview, you said that your original thought was, you wanted to be in Houston, way back when you first entered seminary. You were thinking about watching a lot of Astros games, being, do you ever think about what might have happened if you decided to stay?
I don't. It would have been a totally different priesthood for me. I look at Father Matthew Kuzleski, Father Jay Serrato, and Father Zachary Muldrow, and they're in some really big parishes, and kind of seeing the differences and the distinct differences of what my priesthood looks like compared to theirs. It was one thing I used to complain about at the beginning, is I had marriage prep, and I had all the marriage prep because we have more priests than we have actual people that work at the office. So we have a secretary, we have someone that works with our cemetery, and then we have a bookkeeper who volunteers her time. And then we have 3 priests. And so a lot of those roles that would be, the marriage coordinator, or this person that works with this specific task or that specific task, that falls to the priest. And so I was like, this is difficult. 1, I don't know how to do marriage prep, but 2, to kind of realize that I have to schedule out 6-8 meetings with these men and women who are seeking to be united as one. And it's actually been one of the greatest blessings of my priesthood, because I get to walk with them. I just celebrated a wedding this past Saturday of 2 great kids that came to me and asked me to be their celebrant at their Mass. And I was like, are you sure you've got other priests that could do this? Because it wasn't one of our parishioners, but they had come to daily Mass and they'd encountered me through a couple of different interactions. One of them was the same day, or like they came on the same day, separate incidences that we had conversations. And 2 days later was when they got engaged. And so when they came back, they wanted me because of the conversations we were able to have.
Wow.
And so I'm grateful for it, because for me, it was a blessing that the Lord allowed me to walk with them. And then to celebrate their wedding mass with 3 concelebrants and Deacon Caleb, who will be a priest this weekend, was a great gift. But like speaking with Father Matthew or Father Zachary, they have somebody that handles the marriage packet, and they'll visit with them once maybe before the wedding. And so it's the realization that they have so much that only a priest can do that they do, because there's just such large parishes.
Yeah.
And they have other people, large staffs, to be able to take care of a lot of the other stuff. I'm able to walk, and it's the word that Pope Francis used so much, accompany. I'm able to walk with these people that have come to me, and be able to have difficult conversations with them, and be able to push them to virtue, and to not just be like, oh, well, you've checked all the boxes, now let's get married and hope that y'all survive. No, I want you to thrive in your marriage. I want you to have everything.
Pulled in so many different directions that you know, as a priest with such a big parish, it's different. Yeah.
So completely. It's definitely a different kind of feel to that priesthood, just speaking with them. And so I'm grateful that, again, I said this even before I got ordained. It was the greatest decision for me to be able to come and minister to the rural areas. And it has been one of the greatest gifts that I've been able to encounter so many people, been able to go to the Schulenburg football games or the basketball games or the volleyball games of our high school and our grade school, the St. Rose Cardinals. And so to be able to spend time with that and have these specific encounters and know who's on the team, not just one of your parishioners, is one of the 40 or 60 people on the field, but having 7 of them on the volleyball team or the basketball team, or having 20 of them on our football team, and to be able to stand there in support and solidarity, and kind of walk with them.
Yeah, more relationships with the people too that you know.
Exactly. And deeper conversations. They don't have to be as superficial, because you are able to get to know them. You are able to enter into that deep relationship.
Wow. Are you able to go back to Houston every once in a while?
I do get to go back to Houston on a somewhat regular basis, especially when the basketball, when we're waiting or getting ready for the Priest versus Seminaries basketball game. It's one of the great catalysts for priest fraternity, is a practice on a Sunday night, and to be able to go and visit with Father TJ and Father Christopher, Father Chad Henry, and those guys, Father Joseph White, Father Victor, and then being able to sit down and visit with them. Again, after we won 2 years ago, we had a kind of a gathering and a get-together, and we get 12 priests together and have burgers. And after that night, instead of driving back, I went and stayed with Father Victor, and we stayed up for another 2 hours, just being able to talk, being able to pick his brain on priestly mission and how to live it out, was a great gift for me. And so I do get to go back. I'll go back for the alumni mass, for the dedication of the organ at the seminary. So I'll swing by the seminary as well. I know a lot of those guys that are still there too. I mean, a lot of them were in formation when I was ordained, so it's not like I don't know anyone there.
Yeah, not a bunch of strangers, yeah.
And then Father Urel and Father Matthew Suniga and Father Richard Hinckley, they're all still on formation faculty, so to be able to go and spend time with them and seek to support them both through my prayers, but also just journeying back, because that was home for 7 years, and I very much love the people there that supported me in Houston, and the people that have supported me here. So it's having them all come to my ordinations or reaching out to me, and wanting to come and visit. Like, when are you having mass? Because again, we have 3 different places I could be on a weekend. I always tell them, call me beforehand or send me an email if you want to come out, so that I can tell you where I'm going to be, and to have a mass with them at one of our painted churches, and then take them out to lunch or something, is a great gift for some of those parishioners that were very helpful in my journey.
Speaking of the painted churches, now, I mean, I've been to a few of the painted churches. You know, they're pretty famous in our area. Could you Tell us a little bit about the painted churches.
So in this area, a lot of the settlements were either Czech or German immigrants, and so when they came from the old country, they wanted to make sure that they had a place to worship, and so both High Hill and Dubina were some of those that were founded first, and I know in Dubina there was a storm that knocked it down and knocked Ammonsville down, and so they rebuilt. But instead of spending the money on the marble or spending the money on so much other kind of expensive materials, they were typically wooden framed, and they painted them to look like the churches of the old country. And so that's exactly what they did. And they'll bring in history. In the church in Praha, just up the road, they actually have a painting of the small church from that town that they would have immigrated from in the kind of the high apse. It's a small one, but it's there and it's distinct. And then in Dubina, again, it actually got named our diocesan shrine because it's named for St. Cyril and Methodius, and such a great influence among the Czech people and the Eastern Europeans because they are the apostles to the Slavs. They were able to dedicate that. Bishop Cahill dedicated that, and so it offers a plenary indulgence if you are able to go on a pilgrimage and meet all of the kind of requirements for the indulgences. But it's a beautiful small church. For High Hill that we have here, this one is just unbelievable. It was built by the Germans, and so it's brick but everything, again, all of the columns are wood that are painted to look like a different type of a marble. It's a distinct feel.
It is so cool. Just, I mean, I was walking up to when I went on, the tour, looking at the different. I had to kind of touch it. It's like, oh yeah, this is wood. Yeah. This is not marble.
yeah. And so there was here is known as the Queen of the Painted Churches at St. Mary's in High Hill, Praha. Is a beautiful church as well. And it's two communities. One was Czech, one was German, and they both tried to outdo each other. And so even God can rectify intentions for his glory and be able to give beautiful worship spaces, even if there was some kind of competition in the midst of who's going to have the better church. And so to be able to celebrate masses in both of them at times, they have their own distinct qualities. And so it's the painted churches offer a distinct feel because they're all typically out in the rural areas.
Yeah.
Many of them, they're missions, they're not active parishes for the most part. And that's because where they were planted and where they started, then the train comes through and they don't want the train running right through their town. And so the train comes 4 miles down the road and you get Schulenburg and Weimar, which are the now parishes. And these smaller communities still have their church and their church kind of hall and stuff. So
I think at least one of them, I remember, it's been a while since I've, been to the painted churches. I think at least one of them has fake stained glass too that's painted, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not sure about that. I know that they have, all of them have a distinct stained glass. Some of them have more light coming in and they're not as ornate. Some of them are very ornate and they have specific scenes of saints or different virtues, or be it the theological virtues and their kind of symbols, the symbols of the evangelist, but I'm not sure about the painting of the windows.
I mean, it's a great tour to go on. Anybody who's near Houston or swing by.
Yeah, and it can be done in a day. I mean, we typically when they do schedule them or use a docent, somebody from the chamber is able to go with them and kind of give them an update. And you typically get 2 or 3 before lunch. You go to lunch, you go to the next 1 or 2, and then you're able to head home. And so it works out well. And again, some of these churches have been around for 110, 120 years than the main structures. And that's old for our new world. Again, they're in Houston. They're building churches. St. Faustina, again, they're about to plant their church. And there's a realization that there's so much history of what has already been laid here, the foundation, and now it's our call to carry it out and recognize the beauty of those churches themselves.
Now, you said that you're going to be here at least another, at your current assignment at least another year.
So yeah, I didn't get moved at the transition point. Now, if anything comes up and there's a need that the bishop would have to fill, that's something that would change. But at this point, I didn't get moved at the normal July 1st when there's going to be different maneuvers in our presbyterate.
If and when you do get moved to another parish, what would you take away from your current assignment?
I would take away just the beautiful people that I've been able to minister with, the people that have been able to pray for me and have prayed for me since I got here. They accepted me even as a Weimarite, even as somebody from the rival. And to be able to recognize, I think in the last interview I pointed out that one, I want to bring Christ to them, but I also want to encounter Christ in them, that they're already doing something right. And there has been overwhelming realization that there has been a lot of foundation that was laid here by the previous pastor, Father Tim Kozler, and kind of the witness to how we can work with that foundation and journey and encounter them. For this community, there's a Conquistandos de las Naciones, a Hispanic prayer ministry that meets on Monday nights here. They have been just an unbelievable prayer powerhouse for me. And then being able to minister to them, to be able to on First Mondays to say Mass for them, to be able to have a holy hour and hear confessions in Spanish, to be able to walk with them, and then just see their love that they have for me. So every Monday night after their prayer group, they also have a meal. And so I always get fed. I get fed very well in this, from our KCs to our altar societies and the different community functions. But every Monday night, I know that I'm going to have a plate if I want it. And they're just more than willing to share with us and share their time, talent, and treasure. And so those prayers for our diocese, they started it up a couple of years ago. It's called the Seven Sisters Apostolate, and so it's a where you have a group of ladies that daily will pray specifically at holy hour for the priest, and that has been a great blessing for me. They started it for me last June, so my second year as we were starting it, and so it's the first year, and I can just see so much of the grace that has flowed through their prayers, both in their lives as well as in my ministry, to kind of see that. And so to see so many people praying for me, we have a morning men's group that usually gets anywhere from 25 to 45 men on Friday morning at 6:30 to pray a rosary, to kind of have a discussion on faith. So just encountering those beautiful things that have helped me in so many ways. I would say I'd also take the blessing of being able to teach. One, I got thrust into the OCIA process and being the catechist, the lead catechist, the October of my first year, walking with them, being able to take them to the Easter Vigil and bring them into the church. This year, I knew that it was going to be something that I was able to do, and so I had it planned out. It was a little more structured. And walking with those, I guess it was 5 women that came into the church, 2 being baptized, 3 making a profession of faith, and then having a pastor who is so humble to allow me to actually celebrate the Easter Vigil, because I have been the one teaching them to be able to actually baptize them, to be able to take their profession of faith, to be able to confirm them. Just a great blessing to culminate with that. And then I've had a couple of different adult educations. We went through Brant Petree's book, Jesus and the Jewish Roots of the Eucharist, during the summer leading into the Eucharistic Congress. And then in November, we did one, it was called Eternal Rest on Formed, kind of about death, dying, and the last 4 things. And so those aspects of realizing as much work as I have to put into them for these catechetical parts. The teaching aspect is something that I'm grateful to have the opportunity to do. It doesn't fall on somebody else, that I'm able to walk with them and give a lot of the insights that come somewhat naturally from the 7 years in seminary formation, as I'm discussing some of my bullet points of what the Catechism says, and to be able to journey. And so those are a lot of the main things from my time specifically here, interacting and serving the ministries here. And then having a pastor who's allowed me to do different mission work throughout my 2 years. Last August, I was able to go down to Chalco, Mexico, and visit the Sisters of Mary. Last October, I was able to go to Guatemala and serve as a kind of a priest lead on a retreat and spiritual journey and mission work with some Franciscans down there. And so those were both beautiful experiences. And the one in Chalco, that's one that has really struck my heart, because people ask how I got down there, and I said I read a book. So there was a book that was sitting on my shelf for probably 3 years. It was called Priest and Beggar by Kevin Wells, and it was a story of Father Aloysius Schwartz. He's from the D.C. area. He's a priest from D.C., but he wanted to be a missionary. And when he started with the Maryknoll missionaries, he thought, well, he sees himself being put into kind of the leadership role, and he didn't want that. He wanted to be out with the poorest of the poor, serving them, and he wanted to live with them. And so he ended up joining a different order in Belgium, the Samist order, the Society of Missionaries. And so he would end up getting ordained and be incarnated in Korea as a priest. And it was during his time there that he just saw utter destitution of war that took place after the Korean War. And so this was in the 1950s and 60s when he goes and ministers there. And throughout his kind of journey, he gets sick and he has to come back to the States to recuperate. And when he comes back, he brings photos of the destitution and the poverty that he's encountering. And he was able to start raising money. And it was a Korean relief aid, and he started raising money. And so he started different dispensaries, very similar to, say, Mother Teresa, walking with those who are on hospice, walking with those who are sick or just outcast. And he loved them all. And ended up starting not necessarily orphanages, but boarding schools to be able to get people out of the poverty. He did it through education. He wanted to bring them in at 12 years old and then have them be able to leave at 18 with trade schools and educational kind of concepts. And not only did he do that, he's like, anyone can teach school. He needed sisters to go and mother them, to give them that love that they were missing, be it if they were orphans because of the war, or be it from the poverty or the just difficulty. And so that's what they did. In 60 years ago, he founded the Sisters of Mary, and it was Korean women who didn't necessarily, they weren't going and having 7 years of formation and education. They were there to mother these children, and they're called mother sisters. And so they mother the children as well as they're in a religious community as sisters, and they serve. And that started in Korea, and then it moved to the Philippines. And shortly before Father Al was about to die with ALS, he had already been diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, but he founds a spot down there in Mexico, in Chalco, Mexico, and has the first buildings built. And it was something that they were able to sustain. So you have 4 or 6 religious sisters, Korean sisters, come over into a culture that they don't know the language. They don't know the culture. It's a very distinct culture between the Asian kind of everything is orderly and these other ways. And to be able to go down there and encounter that after reading that book, I made a donation, and the author gives me a call. His name's Kevin Wells, and he used to be a sports writer for the Tampa Bay Rays or Devil Rays. I'm not sure what they were at that time. But he called me up, and we talked for about 20 minutes, and he said, if you ever want to go down there, just let me know. And I was like, before I let you off the phone, what does that entail? And so he told me, well, the sisters, they don't have a chaplain at the moment. So they would love to always have visiting priests who are able to come and offer them the sacraments to be able, they'll always have somebody come in from outside in the diocese to offer the sacrament of Mass. But they don't always have somebody to talk to give counsel, to be able to walk with or hear confessions, because the other priests have their other assignments. And so I was able to find a week off, July and August, the 29th through the 2nd. And I told him this is the time that about 3 weeks later, I want to go down there and visit the sisters and minister to them, be able to offer adoration, to be able to offer the sacraments and counsel and talks or whatever may come up. And so he called me up and he's like, well, the sisters will be there, but most of the girls will go home for a 7-day period and they all come back on August 1st. And so I ended up going down there, not really knowing what I was going to do. I had enough United points. They met me at the airport. It was Mother Martha and Sister Gabriella, Sister Gabby. She's the only American that's in this order. And she came to know about Father Al and the sisters through Kevin Wells, who gave a speech there in the D.C. area.
Okay.
And so as I'm driving down there, Mother Martha tells me, you look nervous. I was like, yeah, because no one's told me what I'm going to do. I was expecting to have a little bit of insight as to what this is going to entail. And what ended up was the next week of just grace upon grace that has transformed my priesthood. And to be able to go down there as I'm journeying, I was like, well, I know that these girls are traumatized because, again, some of them, they've lost parents in cartel wars. Some of them, they're avoiding human trafficking. Some of them, they're just they've got 8 children and they're not able to provide food for them all. And so what they are able to do is bring 12-year-old girls in and mother them to life again. And then at 18, after 3 years of school, they get their education, and then they have 2 years of trade school, be it cooking or sewing or computer classes. They're opening up a nursing center down there on that campus. And so I was able to go down there, say Mass for them, and then I was like, but I don't really know my schedule. So I thought I was maybe just going to get a nice retreat in myself. And Mother Martha said, no, we have a schedule for you. And so it was different things that would come up. You're giving a talk at this point. You're going to hear confessions at this point. You're going to do this. And it was the most life-giving thing I could have done for my vacation. And then I was able to have such a good relationship with them. They also offer pilgrimages to Our Lady of Guadalupe and then a time there. And so this spring break, I was able to take 11 of our pilgrims from the parish, and we were able to go down. We spent all day at Our Lady of Guadalupe, got to say Mass in one of the side chapels there. And then we went to Chalco, and I was able to give a couple of different retreat talks. It was the first week of Lent, so I gave a talk on prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. And I let Father Al give the talk on almsgiving. He was really good at it in his lifetime, and so I just played one of his his talks from 1990 on kind of meeting Christ in the poor and how we can serve them. And so that was a beautiful opportunity to give those talks, to minister to my pilgrims, and then minister to the sisters, and to minister to the children, and then to celebrate a holy hour with the niñas. There was about 80 girls, and that was one of the most beautiful times of adoration I've ever had. It was at night. It was at 7:00. We had just finished dinner, and so my pilgrims were able to come, and they sat there and prayed. And they go, you're going to be giving a talk to these girls who are kind of in the vocation part of things, like they're discerning different vocations, be it for the sisters themselves or different religious orders. And so they go, can you give a talk on, or like a short explanation and then do adoration? And I was like, yes, I'm going to do adoration, because we had it at our priest retreat this year, where the priest, he called it mule ministry. He picked up the monstrance and went and blessed every person specifically. Oh, wow. And so there were about 80 girls, and I gave a probably 5-10 minute kind of reflection on unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it doesn't produce fruit. And so after that, I picked up the monstrance, and these girls stayed kneeling for an hour and a half, or hour and 15 minutes. And one by one, I went and blessed each and every one of them. And they just would then move to the back of the line, and they kept funneling forward. And then after that, I was able to bless the 2 religious sisters there and my pilgrims. And it was just transformative to see the grace pour through the Eucharist to these children. And that's what they told me when I got there, they said there's a lot of pain that these people have encountered, but there's also a lot of joy. And they said, we make a Jesus sandwich. On the bottom floor of their dorms is a chapel, and on the top floor is a chapel. And the girls live in between, and they study, and they get mothered back to life and have an education that they then can go back, be it in a hospitality environment, be it go to school and get a business degree to come back. And a lot of their religious sisters now, 37 of them, were at one time children in the order that are out of the 45 that are mothering them were there.
Nice.
And there's 7 countries now. There's 400 sisters, and there's 20,000 kids.
Wow.
Both boys and girls towns.
Wow.
The one in Chalco has 3,000 girls. They've got one in Guadalajara that's got 2,000. And so that was just seeing their self-gift and being able, how they wake up at 5:15 to start their day of prayer. And then they walk with these children, and then outside teachers come in and teach them classes. But after they get out of class from 3 to 5, they're always doing something, different chores, playing sports. And so to see the sisters not going to bed until 10, it makes me as a priest, I can't just sit around and do a whole lot of nothing. I have to seek to utilize what the Lord gives me. And so I try and be as available to my parishioners here, be able to serve them and dedicate time to ministry, to evangelization, and to healing through the sacraments, being available for sacraments of the sick, sacraments of penance. And so I think a lot of that comes from me reading a book. And so if you're wondering if you should read a book, yes, they are very good, especially those saints who have gone before us. Or Venerable Al, his cause for canonization is up right now. And then after that, reading the 4 other books that Kevin Wells wrote that have been able to call me forward to be able to proclaim the truth in a bold way, to glorify God and seek to lead souls into the midst of the depth of the truth that can truly transform and lead us towards our eternal salvation. And so that's been a great blessing, and I'm lucky enough that I have a pastor who's been able to allow me to minister in those mission trips, and I'll get to go back and minister to the sisters this July, and it'll be when the girls are graduating, so they'll have 300 girls that are graduating, so I'll be there the day that they all got back, and 2,000 of them came through in August 1st. I was able to celebrate a Mass with them, and then 3,000 during the mission trip, or it was a spiritual pilgrimage, because really I gave a retreat. When I went down there, they have a retreat house to where we stayed on site. And now I'll get to go back and just minister solely to the sisters and encounter God, which is so easy to do down there.
Have you ever thought of, joining an order, doing something like that, long term?
That definitely always crosses your mind when you come off of one of those trips. This is just one. And as I prayed through it and kind of reflected on what that time was for me, the first trip, again, I brought it up to my spiritual director and different priests. And the realization is that, yes, there is that tug to be able to minister in that way, because it's a sole focus of who's in front of you, rather than kind of when you're in a parish, there's so many different aspects to the parish. And sometimes it'd be like, well, am I escaping one to just pour my soul into a specific ministry? Or is it something that I'm still called to minister to all ages? I'm still called to celebrate the sacraments. I'm still called to be a community member. And so at this point, that's not kind of in my future. I do plan on being able to go back on at least a yearly basis to be able to minister and utilize what I can. And if, again, the Lord places that on my heart as a call within a call, similar to Mother Teresa, I'll pray for his guidance, and I'll pray with the obedience of my bishop, who I've promised everything to at that point. But to serve the Lord, I know that it gives me a lot of joy, be it there or be it with our Hispanic community, be it with our men's group, be it with our young kids, be it at our school. be able to celebrate the Mass in these beautiful country churches, be able to go for a walk on these country roads and just kind of encounter God in a stillness, because it is a slower pace here than in both Houston or, say, there in Chalco. So,
looking forward to if and when you do move, what do you think they'll, where do you think they'll place you? What type of parish do you think you'll get next?
I don't know. I've got a feeling a lot of times first assignments for newer priests will have a school, and so I think it would have a school attached to it. I think that's kind of one of the places, one of the charisms that I'm able to engage with the youth and be able to kind of walk with them, and I think that's one spot. So depending on where it may be, I don't know. A lot of their schools have just gotten filled with new pastors over the last 2 or 3 years. I hope that it's in a rural area, just because it has been such a great gift. Again, Victoria is not considering where Houston is, Victoria is a smaller, it's 60, 70,000 people. But even that, it's a very kind of urban feel compared to these parishes where you may have much more territory, but you also have kind of the ability to form relationships in a deep way. And I'm not saying you can't do that in Victoria, because I do know a lot of people who supported us through the Sarin groups and the different prayer groups there in my formation. But it's just the slower pace here rather than in a more of a city center.
Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your experiences and everything that you've been through, and even having us here in this beautiful retreat house, and just seeing the parish. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
It's been fantastic.
Again, thanks for allowing me to share how the Lord has blessed me. Really, that's what it is. He's blessed me, and I hope that I'm blessing others with His presence and His grace as their shepherd.
God bless you, Father Luke.
Thanks.